way to write scripts has completely changed. Even 1 year ago, the only goal of your scripts was to give as much value as possible, but this doesn't work anymore. We'll get into why exactly that is in just a second, but this change is probably the biggest reason why your videos don't perform and worse, don't convert into clients for your business. And what the biggest creators have implemented instead of the typical value script writing is what I like to call the value story. And by the way, I didn't come up with this overnight by myself. When I rejoined my mentor's program, literally the first thing he told me was, the content you need to produce is nowhere near what it used to be last year. So in this video, I'll break down why the traditional value script writing doesn't work anymore, before giving you my 3-step story framework that I use for me and my clients to actually make sales from YouTube. For the past few years, everyone has been told the same things. Just give value, teach people what you know, or provide actionable tips and you'll grow. And for a while that worked. Only a few years back, if you are the first one to explain the concept clearly, you won. Every new 3 tips video, every carousel post, every YouTube tutorial. It all felt fresh because people were learning things for the first time. Fast forward to now, the same formula fails miserably. And that's because information has become a commodity. The traditional way of script writing, where your job was only to teach and give value, doesn't work anymore, because frankly everyone has access to the same information in 3 simple clicks. Think about it, if you want to learn how to build a funnel, you can simply ask ChatGPT and get like 90% of the information you need in less than 2 minutes. But if you want to believe that you can build one, you don't ask ChatGPT for that. Subconsciously you go watch someone who's done it. Someone who tells you the story of when they were broke, struggling, and then figured it out. And someone who talks like they understand you, because audiences have matured. They want to see your perspective, your worldview, your way of thinking. The problem isn't that you're not teaching enough, it's that you're not connecting enough. Because people don't buy from the person who gives the most and best information anymore. They buy from the person who makes them feel something. That's why when Alex Hormozi talks about pricing, it hits 10 times harder than an average business tips guy. Because it's not just advice. It's a business advice coming from years of struggle and failure. The new generation of creators, the ones that are actually selling through their content, they aren't scripting to explain. They're scripting to relate, they're scripting to make you feel understood. Because as you probably know, humans don't make decisions based on logic. We make decisions based on emotion and then try to justify them with logic. That means your script's job isn't just to inform. That worked a few years ago because the viewer felt like they discovered some new secret information. That emotional movement doesn't come from bullet points tips anymore. It comes from story. But right now you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds all very good, but how do I actually write such a script? Well, let me show you the exact formula that I use for myself and for my clients. It's divided into 3 parts: the intro formula, the value story, and the conversion engine, which is the part that will actually make your script sell for you. So let's break these parts down. First, the intro formula. Everyone knows that the intro is the most important part of the video, because it doesn't matter how good the rest of the video is if the viewer clicks off after 20 seconds. And trust me, I've been there. My videos used to have retention graphs like these, and I was really trying my best to hook the viewer in the intro, but it didn't seem to work. So I decided to spend an entire week just binge watching every interview and tutorial I could find of the biggest scriptwriters on YouTube. Guys like George Blackman, for example, who writes for Ali Abdaal, Mike Shake, Noah Kagan, and many more. And so what I found after watching all of these videos from the most successful scriptwriters is that every intro has 4 main ingredients. Number 1, you confirm the click. You've probably heard this term before, but it's absolutely crucial. Once people have seen the title and thumbnail of your videos, they have a certain expectation of what the video will be about. So the first thing that you need to do in the intro is to confirm that the video will in fact be about what you promised in the title and thumbnail. For this video, for example, the title was the story framework that sells for you. And so the first lines of this script were, the way to write scripts has completely changed. Even 1 year ago, the only goal of your scripts was to give as much value as possible. But this doesn't work anymore. Number 2, strike a nerve. Because here's the thing, for these educational type videos, people don't stay purely because they're curious. They stay because they feel seen. And you do that by showing that you understand their pain, desires, or current situation, or by challenging their current beliefs or worldview. And to make it even more efficient, you can add that the information of the video will get them to a desired goal and that it's sure that it's gonna work. So let's look at how I did it for the intro of this video. We'll get into why exactly that is in just a second, but this change is probably the biggest reason why your videos don't perform and worse, don't convert into clients for your business. So in the first sentence, I start by challenging a common belief by saying that the way to write scripts has completely changed. Then in the next sentence, I highlight the big pain by saying that this change is the reason that videos don't perform or convert. Number 3, build credibility. Now that you made them feel something, they're asking themselves, okay, but who are you to talk about this? And this doesn't mean that you should brag or list your achievements. It's about giving the viewer a reason to believe you. The goal is to answer an unspoken question: why should I trust this person? You can do this in a few simple ways. Tell a quick story, share a result, or use social proof. So for this intro, I said, and by the way, I didn't come up with this overnight by myself. When I rejoined my mentor's program, literally the first thing he told me was, the content you need to produce is nowhere near what it used to be last year. By telling this story, which is absolutely true, I built social proof by showing that this idea doesn't only come from me, but also from other big names in the space. And finally, the last step of the intro formula is to tease the solution and give a reason to watch until the end. This is the bridge between your intro and your body. You confirm them click, you made them feel something, you build credibility, now you need to show them why they should stay. And a great way to do this is to use a simple roadmap question, like in this video, and then insert your roadmap, or simply by telling them what they will learn. Another way would be to say, by the end of this video, and then explain the transformation that they will go through after going through the entire video. All in all, it has to give clarity and give the viewer a reason to commit for the next 10 minutes. Now, before we move on, here's the key thing you need to remember about intros. Your intro has one job: to buy the next 60 seconds of attention. Because once you've done that, you actually have a chance to show how good the rest of the video actually is. But then, how do you actually write the rest of your script? How do you combine emotion, storytelling, and value? Well, I like to use a system that I like to call the value story framework. Now, before you think this is a complicated storytelling formula, it's not. It's actually everywhere. Every good movie, every TED Talk, every viral video that makes you stop scrolling and just watch. They all use it. To give you an example, let's take a look at one of the first scenes of one of my favorite movies, Interstellar by Christopher Nolan.
Shut it! What'd you do, Murph? She didn't do nothing. Blew the tires off.
The scene begins with a wide shot on the road. Here, Nolan zooms out to set the world and context. But then, all of a sudden, a drone appears out of nowhere. With that drone, Nolan introduces a problem, something unknown, something confusing, something that makes you feel the tension. Then, he zooms in to show the character's reaction and pursuit. We see how the main character, Cooper, tries to solve the problem. And finally, he zooms back out to show the bigger meaning. This isn't just about a drone, because it's an Indian surveillance drone that informs about the situation humanity is in. And this not only makes you see the bigger storyline again, but it also makes you want to find out more. That right there, that's the story value framework. So let's see how you can implement this framework for each point of your body. Step 1. Zoom out and set the context. Every point should begin by answering these questions. Why does this point matter, and how does it fit into the entire story of the video? Just let me give you an example. Let's look at how I started the part just before this one, talking about the intro formula. Everyone knows that the intro is the most important part of the video, because it doesn't matter how good the rest of the video is if the viewer clicks off after 20 seconds. This signals why intros matter in the bigger context of writing a script. Then I continue by saying, and trust me, I've been there. My videos used to have retention graphs like these, and I was really trying my best to hook the viewer in the intro, but it didn't seem to work. And this answers the question of why it matters so much. Step 2. Introduce emotion. This is the biggest difference between the old way of script writing and the value story. Right after explaining why the point matters, you need to introduce emotion. And you can do this in a lot of different ways, but here are the ones that I use to write my and my client scripts. Share a short on the story of when you struggled with that exact problem. Show the transformation between the old way and the new way. Make the viewer imagine what their life could look like if they applied or ignored what you're teaching. Drop a line that makes the viewer need to know what happens next. Use imagery that makes the concept feel real. Say something slightly controversial that challenges a common assumption. Admit a small failure or insecurity that your viewer can relate to. Or ask a question that makes the viewer reflect emotionally. So to continue with the example of this video, right after answering why intros matter, I told a relatable story by showing that I was in the same spot as you guys, and I explained what I did to change that. Step 3. Zoom in. Now that you got the viewer emotionally engaged, this is where you zoom in and deliver your value. This is where you show the tactics, the frameworks, the examples, everything that solves the problem you just introduced. But here's the key. Don't just tell them what to do. Show the transformation the viewer will experience after implementing your value. For example, instead of saying you need to define your brand identity, say, when I was trying to build my brand, I realized that I kept attracting clients who didn't fit. So I sat down, wrote these 3 sentences that defined exactly who I wanted to speak to. See the difference? The one gives advice, the other shows the transformation and explains how the viewer can do the same. Step 4. Zoom back out and rehook. This is the part that most people skip. But honestly, honestly, this is what's gonna make your script flow together and makes it 10 times more comprehensive, which then boosts the engagement, watch time, and overall perceived value of the video. This is where you help the viewer see the bigger picture again and why this matters beyond the tactic you just explained. But let me show you what I mean more concretely by zooming out from the value story part and transition to the conversion engine part. So this is the exact framework you want in place for every point of your body. Set a context, introduce emotion, zoom in, and then zoom back out. But here's the thing, you could write the best scripts in the world, if nobody is gonna convert from them, it's kind of useless. And you might think that it's just enough to put a link in the description and randomly tell people to go click on it, and this works to a certain extent, but there's a far better way to do it. It's by using what I like to call the conversion engine. This is what will allow you to make your scripts actually sell for you. And before you're afraid that it's gonna come across like a webinar, don't worry, it's super short. Because the interesting thing is that since the viewer has built so much more trust through the emotional storytelling of your video, it doesn't take that much to make them take a look at your website. So the conversion engine is divided into two parts. First, you want to have a CTA around the 40% mark of your video. The important thing is that you've already given some value that shows that you know what you're talking about. And you don't need to say something crazy. For example, I say something like, just before I continue, if you want me to help you build out your YouTube channel, to get 10 to 20 qualified book calls every month done for you, check the first link in the description, but that's it, back to the video. Yeah, it doesn't have to be something crazy, just a quick reminder that you have something to help your viewers with. Because what it's gonna do is that for the rest of the video, they will keep that in mind and decide if it's worth checking out. And this is also where the second part of the conversion engine comes in, the outro. Now the outro has to do three things. Give a quick recap of the important lessons of the video to remind the viewer what they've learned, give another CTA to your product or service, and optionally you can suggest another video to watch after finishing the video to keep them in your YouTube ecosystem. And honestly, it doesn't take much more than that to convert the maximum amount of people. The most part is done through the emotional connection of the video itself. So that's the value story framework that sells for you. The big takeaway is this: stop thinking about your scripts and videos as lessons and start thinking of them as more like conversations with your audience emotions. In 2025, people don't need more information, they need to feel something. But right now you have three choices. One, you treat this like any other video and just forget about it. Two, you take this knowledge and try to implement this into your own content. Or three, you can let me take care of all of this work for you, giving you more time to focus on your business. So if the third option would be something you would consider, check the first link in the description to see if it would be a great fit to work together.